Make sure my mic's on the right setting. Of course, it wasn't. Pro move by me, though. Welcome into the Diamond Vols Podcast on GoVols247.com. I'm Ben McKee, and I'm joined by Will Heflin on this Monday, July 28th edition of the podcast, our final edition for the 2025 baseball season. Fall camp begins kind of tomorrow for football. It's just a lot of talking tomorrow, and I believe they're having their first team meeting tonight. Fall practice doesn't actually start, though, until Wednesday. Practice number one is Wednesday morning, but there's a lot of football talk going on tomorrow. Josh Heupel's going to speak. The coordinators are going to speak. A lot of players, all the quarterbacks. So it is officially football time in Tennessee. And pardon us for giving you some baseball talk in the midst of football time in Tennessee starting up, but wanted to reconvene on the interweb with Mr. Heflin to put a bow on Tennessee's 2026 roster. We have gotten mostly the final answers for Tony Vitello's 2026 roster. At this point, it's a matter of, okay, how many scholarships is Tennessee going to have next season? And we'll certainly get into that. And then also which freshmen are going to make it to campus as not a result of the draft, but are there going to be any freshmen that are not able to make it because Tennessee does not have room? So maybe waiting on an answer or two here or there, but nothing that's going to make or break the roster at this point after Dalton Bargo and Reese Chapman have made their decisions on what is going to happen next in their career. And also DJ Newman, the two-way transfer from Bowling Green. So wanted to get on here despite the start of football season. So forgive us, those of you who are wondering why we're putting out baseball content still, although there are a lot of you who are still paying attention, which is much appreciated and still very cool. So without further ado, before we jump into our conversation, Mr. Heflin, how are you doing? Are you making any of your putts of lately on the golf course?
Yeah.
Look at
been
you.
Been putting it okay. I'm doing well. It's always fun to do some baseball content. And I think it's okay because everybody's counting down till football, right? So we just need something to bide the time. And still a lot, has shaken out since we last convened in regards to baseball. So this will be a good kind of final one, recapping how the draft played out and how the roster is going to look headed into fall. I don't want to say fall camp because that would allude to football, but fall.
I call it fall ball. Fall ball. What did you call it when you were playing? Fall practice?
The fall.
The fall.
The fall. Fall practice, yeah.
You hear a lot of different ones. You hear the fall.
HE double hockey sticks.
Yeah, for those playing. I had one of our loyal listeners who I love dearly sent me a photo. He happened to be over at the baseball stadium or passing by and made his way in, checking out the progress of the construction and whatnot. And Quentin Eberhardt had the newcomers on the field. And that welcome back blankety blank moment for welcome back for some blankety blank or welcome blankety blank for the newcomers. So speaking of HE double hockey sticks, Q certainly had the newcomers and the group that is on campus, which isn't everybody. Some are still playing summer ball, some are taking the summer off, some are Reese Chapman, not sure where he is, but I don't know that he was a part of that group as it's been a whirlwind of a couple of weeks for him. But they're already working towards the 2026 season, and Tony Vitello has been doing a lot of interviews with various people, and there's a consistent theme. You can tell that Tony's relieved to be going into this offseason without the hoopla of a national championship kind of. And what I mean when I say that, because obviously you'll sign up for that all day long, right, in order to win a national championship. But in terms of that next season's team, in which the national championship is not going to help the next year's team, they had to field Tony's point is I had to field a lot of questions and attend a lot of events, and our players had to do the same. just about the national championship and because we won the national championship, which is obviously a great thing. But again, in terms of that next year's team, it doesn't really benefit that group upcoming. And you're having to do things during the summer, you're having to do things in the fall and in the preseason. And it's just a whirlwind. And it doesn't really, it takes up a lot of your attention and brain capacity. And you can tell just based off the way Tony is talking, Will, there's already an edge to them about,
Mm.
okay, last year was successful. We won 46, 48 games, whatever it was. We went to a super regional. We certainly had our frustrations, but overall, super regional, lost to a really good Arkansas program, nearly won 50 games. There were some moments in there in which people will remember for a long time, like the Texas win at the SEC tournament. But Tony's point is like that's all true. And last year was a success, but we're already kind of chomping at the bit to get back after it because we're more focused on the sour taste in our mouth about not getting back to Omaha instead and not truly competing for a national championship or winning one.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think anybody outside of Tennessee likes when Tony V has an edge, and not that he ever doesn't have one, but when you take one on the chin, like they took one in Super Regional, and you conduct yourselves the way that this coaching staff does, you kind of look yourself in the mirror and say, "Okay, okay, that's what happened," and you give them an entire offseason to stew on that. Um, yeah, odds are in your favor for having a very uh, well prepared and focused and energized and edgy baseball team. And all the great coaches and programs, even the greatest. Nick Saban didn't win a national championship every single year, right? But on the years where he didn't, it was kind of like watch out that next year. And so Tony's trying to get into that category, get into those great coaches categories where, hey, if you have a year where it doesn't end the way you want it to end, then everybody's kind of saying, they're probably due the next year. And it truly doesn't take that long, especially in today's climate, to get what you need in the door, get things, a little bit sharper in certain areas and go for another run. And so I think with how everything is shaken out, what we'll talk about here in a few minutes, they're going to be in position to do that. And it sounds like they're glad to kind of be back to business, albeit much more condensed right now. They won't be together as a full group for a couple more weeks, but when they do, I'd imagine he'll be more than ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, and that was my point about the tangent that I went on is that they're already starting to get back to work as a group, even if some are missing. And it's a group that I think is going to be very motivated because of how they kind of took it on the chin for the first time as this new program last season. Even if there was success mixed in, it wasn't to what the expectations are now, and it wasn't to the standard that they hold themselves to as well. And I think that has created a lot of motivation. I don't think for 1 second Tony enjoyed sitting around in Knoxville or wherever he was and watching Dave Van Horn in Arkansas or in Omaha with his Arkansas program. Now, of course, he has a lot of respect for Dave and the Arkansas program, as that is well documented. But I can assure you, watching Jay Johnson walk around Omaha and celebrate in Omaha and be celebrated in Omaha and all the talk about that LSU baseball program, rightfully so, since they've now won their second national championship in the last 3 years. I guarantee you that motivates old Tony V and others on his coaching staff. So I'm very interested to see how they attack this fall, especially with the new roster limits and also just with them being this is a different type of motivation, but I think being as motivated as, do you think it'd be fair to say from the outside looking in that they're probably as motivated as they've been since they got here? Or maybe I'd say either since they got here or since they were trying to get over the hump and get to Omaha for the first time. One of those two benchmarks.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to distinguish. Uh, are there levels to crazy competitiveness? Basically borderline being a psycho. Like If you're a psycho, you're a psycho. You know what I mean? I get what you're asking. I'm gonna say sure, but I don't really like the question to be quite frank, Mr. McKee.
That's fair. I get you. I get you. At the end of the day, they're motivated, point
There.
blank, period. And I'm sure they will be entertaining because of that. Before we do get into our Reese Chapman, Dalton Bargo discussion, I will bring up, since I mentioned that there are some Vols still playing summer ball. How about Tyler Myatt and his Cape Cod League debut over the weekend? I maybe it was Friday. Was his first game?
I believe so.
Um, hits a 471-foot bomb, and I don't know which at bat it was. Maybe it was his first, but his first game in the Cape, his first start, and just cranks one with a wood bat, 471 feet. And then I believe it was the next day, comes back and cranks a grand slam. And you start to think, okay, like you always wonder. Look, no offense to Tyler Myatt and company, but anytime you add a JUCO bat, you wonder if it's going to translate to the SEC. We do it with every JUCO bat. We'll continue to do it with every JUCO bat. There's been great successful stories with JUCO bats at Tennessee, and there's been some that's like, man, how did this not translate? So you always wonder. But if you're a Tennessee fan, I think you find a lot of comfort in watching what he's doing in the Cape Cod, because if he can do it up in the Cape Cod League, then surely that translates to the SEC.
Yeah, 470 with wood plays. It was an 0-2 pitch too, so I guess it's fair to say he's up there looking to do damage regardless of the count. It didn't look like it was just a donkey hack. Just looks like a strong kid. It was a compact swing, and he absolutely hammered it. So yeah, I was kind of pushing back on you a little bit on our personal conversations. I know you have your hesitancies with JUCO bats translating. I just think it's more of a case by case thing.
I do
But
too.
I was and hitting a home run in the cave is awesome. He could go up there and finish batting 500. Doesn't mean he's going to start or be great at Tennessee, but it certainly gives you more reason to believe it will translate. Uh, but I mean, the guy won the Triple Crown at junior college level. He's got a ton of pop. It's a good left-handed swing. Like, it's pretty easy to see and pretty reasonable to be confident that he can contribute and hit wherever he's at. There's some dudes, Ben, that are just hitters. They just wake up, and he's I don't know that he's like this or not, but I'm pretty sure he's from Claiborne County. So for all of our East Tennessee natives, that's not New York City. I would imagine he's not the most analytical or technical person in the box. I think he's probably just a hitter, and he sees the ball and hits the ball. And there's smart guys, the really smart guys that operate that way. Like Andre Lipsius was a nuclear engineer major, mechanical engineer, something like that. But he was just a feel hitter, just get up there and hit, right? And he could look horrible one swing, and then the next swing he's banging a double down the line, the opposite field, just a perfect swing. And you're like, how does this guy take those two swings in the same at bat? But good hitters are just good hitters. And so when you hit 471 feet in the Cape, that's a confidence builder, one, but two, like, that's the best summer league you can play in. So he's seeing good pitching. And so for all those reasons, very confident and excited to have him as a part of not only the offense, but more options defensively as well. Because I know he played second base at Walter State, could play outfield. We'll see.
And look, I may be in wait and see mode with every JUCO batter that comes along. I mean, I feel like I have perfectly fine reasoning to think that way. Alex Solari was mega successful. Liam Spence, there are plenty of successful cases. There's also your Logan Chambers and your Kobe Backuses that were thought to be that they were going to be huge contributors, and for whatever reason, one reason or another, it just did not translate. But even with that being said, even if I am somebody who is more on the cautious end of JUCO bats, like I think the bigger question is, hey, where does Tyler Myatt play? Not does his bat translate? Because he played second base, third base mostly at Walters this past season. And when I spoke to him when he committed, what was that, May, early June? He told me that he's expecting to play corner outfield at Tennessee. And, well, Tennessee now has a corner outfielder returning to Tennessee because he was not selected in the draft. So if I'm being totally honest, I think looking at it on paper right now, I kind of think that Tyler Myatt's an odd man out. And I say that in a positive, just to kind of speak to the level of competition that Tennessee is going to have this fall. And Tyler seemed, when I spoke to him and speaking with people who were around that Walter State program this year, I mean, he doesn't seem like the type of kid who at all runs away from competition. And I expect him to be a contributor for Tennessee next season. I'm fascinated in a good way to see where and how he contributes, because you look at the outfield right now, and we'll dive into this a little bit more, but it's like, okay, I think Jay Abernathy is the starting center fielder as of July 28th. I think Reese Chapman is starting in right field as of today, and I think Henry Ford is starting in left field. I mentioned on our last podcast, I believe, that when I asked what Tennessee sees as his position, it was said outfielder, and can also play third base or first base. And what's the two positions on this roster right now, and at least in my opinion, that it's like there's not an obvious candidate you can point to in terms of who's going to play that position. To me, it's third base and first base. So I'm fascinated to see, okay, what happens with that opposite corner outfielder from Reese Chapman. Is it Blaine Brown? Well, I don't know that it would be Blaine Brown. I think Blaine Brown's going to be an every game bat in the lineup every game because of his bat. I think he's going to hit in the middle of the order. I think he's going to be hitting three through five, somewhere in there. But where's his positioning? Is it truly a corner outfielder, which is his natural position? But he's going to be a pitcher as well, and he's going to get a legitimate opportunity to pitch. So does that dictate that he needs to be a DH, and now a corner outfield spot is opening? So does Tyler Myatt take that? Does Henry Ford take that? Who's playing third base? Does Newstrom stick over at second? Does Ethan Moore force the hand of Tennessee's coaches, and he's going into it as a second baseman behind Newstrom, but does he force the hand this fall, and like Manny Marin did, and make the coaches reconsider his playing time and force the hand at third base? Or does Tyler Myatt go back in the infield to play third base? Does Henry go back to first base? Where's Stone Lawless and Levi Clark and their development at catcher? I think that's going to dictate a lot of where those two play next year and where others around them play next year. There's so many fascinating questions that I can't wait to start to solve this fall. But I do not at all mean to I don't know, rain on the Tyler Myatt parade a little bit, just because I mentioned my overall thought about JUCO bats. That's a separate thought. I want to distinguish that. I think Tyler Myatt's going to be a really good player, really good bat for Tennessee, and I'm fascinated to see where he slots in, because even if I mentioned that, like, hey, he might be the odd man out today, he's got a lot of versatility, and with that bat, I mean, you're going to want to find a spot in the lineup. It almost kind of reminds me of Alric, now that I think about it. Alric didn't necessarily have a true position, but his bat forced Tony to get him on the field. So we'll parlay that into the Reese Chapman conversation, since we are talking about the outfield, Mr. Heflin. Reese Chapman, Tony has said in a couple of interviews that there was actually a team that told Reese they were going to draft him, and they never did, which sucks. I hate that for Reese, just on a human level. That's really unfortunate to get your hopes up like that and it just not work out. But it is to Tennessee's benefit, and it kind of sparked an awkward conversation at the time, and I believe we had that on our last podcast with Dalton Bargo and Reese Chapman going undrafted unexpectedly. It's like, okay, these are productive college bats, but are you going to have room to bring them back because of the new college baseball rules? Do you even have, even within the new rules, with what you've accumulated this offseason in terms of talent, do you even have room from that perspective? And it seems like it was going to be hard to have room for Dalton Bargo, and that's how he ends up at NC State. And from my understanding, he was not a DSA tag, which is that new tag that came down with the settlement. It seems like that was a, hey, you need to enroll at school first, then you can have conversations with the baseball coach at that school, and then you can be a part of the team in that manner, since we are outside of the transfer portal window. And that, from my understanding, is how he ends up at NC State. But a little bit of a logjam for Dalton Bargo, who doesn't have a true position, maybe a bit inconsistent, not maybe, was frankly a bit inconsistent at times. We talked about that. Whereas Reese, yes, he had his inconsistencies, but a lot of athleticism there, a lot of pop. Not that Bargo didn't have pop, but I think you needed, especially with DJ Newman moving on, Will, and I'm sorry to be so long-winded here, but with DJ Newman moving on and signing the two-way transfer from Bowling Green, who played outfield when he wasn't pitching, I simply think you needed more of a true outfielder than a utility man. Even if the profiles are maybe similar at the plate with Bargo and Chapman, I just think you needed more of a true outfielder than a utility man. Especially because I think one thing that gets glossed over is Reese's defense. A lot of people want to talk about his inconsistencies at the plate, and then of course his athleticism and power is talked about a lot when he's going right. But he's exceptional out in the outfield with the arm. He reads balls correctly. I know that was a bit of an issue during the national championship season, but that was not at all an issue this past season. Great arm, great instincts, great athleticism, great locker room guy. So I say all that to say that's why I think Reese Chapman is back at Tennessee and not Dalton Bargo. And in my opinion, the Reese Chapman aspect of it, that's a win to have a veteran, productive bat back in your program. That can also help with the transition in leadership, as you had a bunch of older guys moving on as well.
Yeah, I think the upside makes sense with Reese, and you hit the nail on the head. The defense is there, clearly a strength if you're comparing him to Bargo, which is probably not fair to either guy, but that's what it feels like just on how the dominoes fell. Uh, Reese, much better defender, more upside. Hasn't quite played as much in college, so you feel like there's still more development to be had there. And seemed a little bit more steady, even when things were going well. You just felt like he kind of handled it a little bit better. And I don't know, you know, I don't want to get on here and poo poo on Bargo. I mean, he had some great moments for Tennessee, and I think everybody wishes him the best. And I will ask Swain, but I feel like he could almost be, he should probably keep his VFL card if he wants it.
He is a VFL.
I mean, he helped them win a national championship, had some bright moments last year, ended poorly, sour taste in the mouth. I think NC State's a good fit for him. Good program. They know how to win. Somebody like Bargo could go there and have just a unconscious year, and we're going to be like, oh boy, good for you, Bargo. But I agree on the Reese thing. And, I think even with him coming back for the reasons we just talked about in the last segment, I don't think it's guaranteed that he starts every day in right field. And I think he probably knows that and is okay with that. And I think that's good for Tennessee baseball and everybody involved. He'll be better for it if he does win the job. But I think he's coming into this year with a lot to prove himself, kind of mirror image of he's quite literally a mirror image of the team, right? Had a really nice start, showed a ton of upside, really solid, and had some moments down the stretch, but for the most part, felt like he could have done more. And so I think, the team is probably feeling this, felt the same way. And so I think Reese coming back is a good thing for Tennessee. And so we'll see. I think he probably does end up starting every day, but it's not going to be easy. And if he doesn't, that means that whoever is starting really, really played well and earned it. And so that'll be good for Tennessee as well. And we know Reese can be a very productive DH or platoon bat if you need him. But again, the defense is so good in right field. And that's something we've had, since really Jordan Beck. for 2 years, and then you had Kavaris carry that torch, and now Reese is carrying that torch.
Well,
So
don't forget old C. Scott out there too.
C. Scott, I forgot about that 23 year. I apologize, C. Scott.
And
Snuck
that
in
was
there.
really when that 23 season
Beck
got turned around, when they put
Beck
Hunter
was
in center
after.
and C. Scott in right.
Yeah, Beck got drafted after 22. So C. Scott was the everyday right fielder in 23 and unbelievable outfielder. I mean, different prototype, right? Speed, had a good arm for his size. But anyways,
Who was the right fielder on that 19 team? Your team in 19? Alric? No, it's
nope.
Ammon. Justin Ammon, sorry.
Yep. Who was center?
Jay Charleston.
And Allergan left third base.
Andre Lipschitz.
Short.
Ricky Martinez.
Second.
Ooh, who was second? Let me think for a second. If
This is
Jay
where it gets
moved
tough.
up. Yeah, that is where it gets tough. No, Brody was in center and Jay was at second. Or was that 18?
That was 18.
Second base.
Jay played center in 19.
Was Fergie get some run at second?
Fergie
But he was hurt most of the year.
He played some first when
Luke got hurt.
Well, yeah, then it ended up being Pete at first every day, and Fergie played every day at second. Actually, no, that's wrong. Pete was DH. Ferguson played first. A young Jake Rucker played second base.
Dadgummit. How did I forget that one?
I forgot it too. I'm
over
sorry.
to third.
Little throwback Thursday. If you knew all of those, then you're a real one.
Who was catching?
19
was Pav, but he split. Gray. Was Gray there in 19? Yeah, that was his first full season, and then he came back for the COVID year, and unfortunately that got cut short. And then you had Greer in 2021, Jackson Greer in 21, correct? There we go. Look at us. See, nobody can call us.
22 who caught?
22 who caught? That was Evan Russell.
Yeah.
They've been to Omaha so many times that usually you associate a season by how it ended, but now they have had so many seasons that have ended in Omaha. You have to stop and think about which Omaha team, and that wasn't even an Omaha team. That was just the great 22 team. Who else? Who was the backup catcher that year? I know Jared Dickey, but Dickey redshirted that year. Who was the backup catcher on that 22 team?
Charlie Taylor.
Was it Chuck?
It was.
Yeah, he
started. He started the regional opener that Russ.
I remember. I remember that game. But I don't know. I guess we were talking about outfielders. To put a bow on the Reese Chapman conversation again, I apologize for the word vomit earlier. But I ran through a lot of different thoughts there pertaining to the outfield. To put a bow on Chapman and the potential starting outfield next year, and I realize it's July 28th, but hey, it's fun to talk about these things. There's three things in my mind that will determine who starts in the outfield next season. I mentioned two of them. Does Tyler Myatt's bat translate to the SEC? Because he expects to play corner outfield. I think it will translate to the SEC. So maybe in addition to that, what happens around Tyler, like to put his bat in the lineup, is it best to put it at third? Is it best to put it in left, DH? We'll see what translates. But just generally speaking, I think that is one of the three storylines that will dictate next year's starting outfield. I mentioned Blaine Brown. How often is he the DH, since UT views him as a true two-way player, and he is going to receive innings on the mound? So how many innings is Blaine Brown pitching? And if it's a lot, I would assume he would have to DH, although I don't think it is going to be a lot. And something I mentioned on one of our recent podcasts is if it's not a lot and it's more of a reliever here and there type of situation, then I think he could be one of your starting corner outfielders. And I'll say this, I think, Will, people are sleeping on the addition of Blaine Brown. I don't think Tennessee fans even realize how big of an addition that one's going to be. I think you're going to look back on that, and it might end up being the most underrated pickup in the portal in the entire country next season. Blaine Brown's got a lot of talent, especially in the bat, even with the arm. I mean, he's been up to 100 and 101. I think people are really sleeping on the talent of Blaine Brown. And like I said earlier, I think he's going to be, I don't know what position, where he's going to be starting in the lineup, but I bet you he's hitting 3 through 5 somewhere in there. I think it's that type of bat that Tennessee has added. So what's going on with Blaine Brown? And then the other thing that I didn't mention is Garrett Wright, the other Bowling Green transfer who did not sign in the draft. That was DJ Newman. Is he the starting catcher? What happens with Levi Clark? What happens with Stone Lawless? If Levi or Stone win the job, then is Garrett Wright going out to play in the outfield? Because Tennessee, as I have said 1,000 times, also recruited him to play the outfield. Now, they said center field to be exact. Were they saying that to make Levi and Stone feel good about themselves, or do they actually feel good about Garrett Wright potentially being in the outfield? And then in addition to that, like, does Jay Abernathy, does he have a big enough offseason to where he truly does win that starting center field job? So I know there's a lot of thoughts in there, and I kind of mentioned some of them earlier, but wanted to revisit my word vomit from earlier to see if you had any thoughts to go off of anything that I said.
Sounds like competition. Sounds like a log jam. I would be very surprised if anyone other than Jay Abernathy is written in at center field. I think Henry Ford is for sure taking one of the corner outfield spots. And so that leaves wherever he doesn't play up for grabs, plus DH, plus first base, plus third.
If it's corner outfield, I think it'd be first base and third base up for grab. And a name I continue to forget, we've talked about it, I cannot remember Blake Grimmer to save my life. I am sorry, Blake Grimmer. It is absolutely no disrespect. I do not hate him. Do not put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
I will give you this. You didn't just throw Tyler Myatt to first base during that conversation, because that would have been the easy cop out. And the reason you didn't do that is because subconsciously you were thinking Blake Grimmer.
Yes, that's exactly why. I honestly don't know what they do at first base or third base. I mean, it's July 28th. I'm not supposed to know, but like, Manny's going to play shortstop at least to start the fall, it sounds like. So he's granted, he could always go back to third. Chris Newstrom could always go back to third, but Newstrom's going to start at second. Ethan Moore's going to start at second base. I don't think, no offense to Ariel Antigua, but I don't think it's a good sign if he's your everyday third baseman. I think he's more of a middle infielder, and I think that if he's starting at third base, then others have not stepped up and had a strong enough offseason. So I think it's going to be somebody that's a bit out of position, quite frankly, at third base and maybe even first base. Now, I guess Grimmer would not be out of position, but that's the area of his game where he really, really needs to take a step forward. Yes, there's stuff offensively that he needs to take a step forward in as well, to where he can consistently hit SEC pitching, but the defense is just as important, if not more important. That's kind of been his bugaboo during his time at Tennessee, like during the fall at practice, is being a good defender. So he plays third base and first base, but can he do so at a high enough level to where he's going to be on the field? I mean, that if Blake Grimmer were to have a huge offseason and win one of those jobs, that would solve some of Tennessee's issues. If not, then it's going to be Henry Ford playing a position he hasn't played a ton of, if at all, in college, or Tyler Myatt played it at JUCO. But again, he's coming in thinking he's going to play corner outfield, which tells me that it was kind of voiced to him that they think he might be better in the outfield than in the infield. Stone Lawless, Levi Clark, do they play first base? There's so many questions, which it gets, as I've said 1,000 times, it gets me excited to see what happens in the fall.
Yeah, it does. And I don't think we need answers at this point. I always draw back on other teams. Maybe people don't like that. Maybe they do. Trey Lipscomb was not penciled in to play third base in 22. It made sense because he had been in the program, but he hadn't proven it yet. And then has a SEC Player of the Year caliber year, had a way better season than Aloy did this year, but Trey Lipscomb unfortunately did it a year where Dylan Cruz existed, right? Did Dylan Cruz win it that year?
Sonny D won it that year.
Sonny D over Cruz, Caglione, and Trey Lipscomb. Wow.
Well,
and Condon had a good year that year too.
I don't remember Sonny D won it. I remember Sonny D being viewed
no
more
pun.
favorably than Lipscomb.
Okay. Anyways, he's a big leaguer now. Trey Lipscomb is. And third base is kind of one of those deals where you have a bunch of shortstops, put one of them over there, like you did with
Sonny
Manny.
D.
Manny played a phenomenal third base this year. I think if it really came down to it, I would prefer Newstrom at third because you've got some really solid options at second. With the San Diego State transfer, pardon me, it's his last name. Snap of the finger.
I'm blanking as well.
Yeah, I'm blanking.
Finley.
Anyways, Finley Bates, right? It's Bates.
Yes, that is
Finley
correct.
Bates. He could slide
There's
to
so
second.
many new names. It just takes me a second to recall them.
First base, you let Grimmer, you let Myatt, you let whoever's not catching, you let the big first baseman, Hankins, big freshman, battle it out. In right field, you let Chapman, Ford, Myatt, Brown, everybody battle it out. That's kind of left and right. Levi Clark could be roaming left field if he's not catching every day, because that's not a bat you're going to leave out of the lineup. In center field, you're battling out with Wright and Abernathy again. I think Abernathy is penciled in as much as you can be at this point. So Wright would probably be in one of those corner outfield battles if he wasn't catching. And that's how you want it to be. And you want to go through the fall with a big time competition. And so that's how it is every year. It's kind of nerve-wracking thinking about it right now, just because you want the best for all these guys, right? You want them all to play. We root for all of them. We truly do. And it really kind of feels bad when you say, yeah, this guy should play over this guy, but that's what we have to do to talk about it and be transparent. But you can truly root for all of them. And I think ultimately it shakes itself out and they kind of decide who plays and who doesn't. It's not really a coach's decision. It usually works itself out. And so the same kind of stuff goes on the mound. We're talking about Blaine Brown, unbelievable talent. His swing plays, right? Swing is beautiful. 10 home runs as a true freshman on a horrible team. And he found a way to put together a really solid year in a good baseball conference. Kid's going to be good. But Appenzeller and Evan Blanco and I'm blanking on everybody. It's the Duke lefty.
Mark Hindy.
Those three guys weren't for sures when he committed. So I think those, that makes it. Oh, and I'm forgetting. Who else am I forgetting? You tell me. Who am I forgetting? Lefty. Didn't get drafted.
Brandon Arvidsson.
Brandon Arvidsson. I didn't forget
if you're
that.
talking about transfers or returning players.
I wasn't blanking on his name. I just wanted Ben to say it. That's my guy. But anyways, Arvidsson, that makes it tougher for Blaine Brown to find the mound, right? Because that's four solid lefties. Right?
Which is probably a good thing.
It's a good thing, right? Focus on the bat. He's got a pure swing. He's big. He's got leverage. That's weird to say for a lefty that's touching triple digits. But if there's a little bit more time to develop and take it slow with the arm and the team need is more so in the bat, then awesome.
Which is exactly the situation because he's a 2-year guy for you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And there's going to be some freshmen that we haven't said a single word about on today's podcast that we're going to come back and report on in the fall and be like, holy smokes. And Ethan Moore, we're going to be like, how do they keep him off the field? He's way too talented. We're going to have all those conversations. It's all going to be awesome. But the moral of the story is here, Ben, the roster 3 weeks ago did not feel like it feels right now. I think we can agree, we feel like we're in a good spot. You've got question marks, but you've got plausible solutions everywhere.
You do. And it's a roster that has enough talent to go win a national championship, quite frankly. Now it's up to the players to come together from a team chemistry and locker room standpoint. It's up to the coaches to do their part in that and develop these guys and bring the best out of them. But just generally speaking, it is a roster talented enough to truly go win a national championship. And that is all you can ask for. We are long overdue for a break, and we still have 2 topics at minimum that we need to discuss quickly before we get out of here, and we will do so on the other side of this quick timeout here on the Diamond Vols podcast on GoVols247.com. Welcome back into the Diamond Vols podcast on GoVols247.com. I can't even say my name correctly. Jeez. Yeah, I'm cutting this sucker out. Redo.
Oh, no, don't do that. Leave it in.
All right, fine. I'll leave it in. I am McKee, Benjamin Thomas McKee, here with William
George
Heflin. Shout out to William George. I was not expecting George. I like it though. Who has been hitting his putts lately on the golf course.
Be careful, it's my dad's name.
I know.
Although William George is like the most, what do you say, old-time English type name?
Sounds like a baseball player from the 1920s.
William George steps up to the plate.
Or somebody who was golfing in the Open a couple of weekends ago. But before we continue our conversation here and get up out of here, I do need to encourage you to go leave us a review wherever you find your Go Vols 24/7 podcasts. Patrick Brown, Ryan Callahan, and myself posted a podcast earlier today on the feed, previewing fall camp, discussing the latest with Boo Carter, how Joey Aguilar is integrating himself into the Tennessee locker room. So with fall camp starting, we'll certainly have more this week on the podcast feed and wherever you find our Go Vols. What's that?
Is that one posted yet?
Yeah, we recorded it on Monday morning, was posted around lunch. So yourself needs to go check that out along with the good people. And while you're there, today is Monday. That is correct.
So you already posted it?
Yes.
Like,
what did I say?
Well, I didn't know if you were saying that as in like
it'll be posted by the time this is posted.
When somebody's listening to this, it's going to be posted, but it's not posted for you literally right now. But you're saying it's literally posted right now.
It's literally posted right now. If you wanted to, you could.
I must have missed the notification, so
you can.
Listen. I need
if
my.
You wanted to, you could stop listening to me and go listen to that and instead right now if you wanted to.
That would be you too.
Yeah, I advise against that. That's too much Ben. This amount of Ben I do not recommend to anybody. I certainly do not recommend Benjamin Thomas McKee.
Everyone needs more Ben.
Gosh, I disagree.
Benjamin
and a lot of people would disagree with that as well. But wherever you find your Go Vols 24/7 podcast, whenever they're posted, if you wouldn't mind leaving us a review, we would greatly appreciate that. The last two things, the first one we've kind of mentioned in passing, but DJ Newman signing with the Astros after being drafted in the 15th round. I reported on our site at GoVols247.com on the checkerboard when it happened that he wanted $200,000 to sign, and the Astros gave him $205,000. So he is moving on to the next level. And I don't know, Will, I it's not a good thing because he's a talented player that Tennessee was looking forward to having, but and you never know how it's going to play out. It may end up proving to be a very costly decision for Tennessee, but it's like we're already having these conversations about where this guy is going to fit in, where's that guy going to fit in. Like there's already a bunch of log jams, and that's just one less log jam. I mean, am I crazy for thinking about it in that way? He's a talented baseball player, but you have outfielders, you have pitching. Like, yeah, you want to have him. And again, maybe I'll look back on this and think I was crazy, but yes, you'd like to have him, but I don't think it's the end of the world at all, I guess is what I'm getting at, that DJ Newman elected to sign with the Astros.
You're correct. It's not the end of the world, but you're also crazy because, and I know I'm going to sound like I'm contradicting myself because the whole conversation we just had. But if you're looking at it through the recruiting and roster building lens, which is not thinking about who's going to start where, it's just about how can I accumulate the most talent possible? How can I get as many assets as possible so that when we get to February, I am the most well-equipped to go through a 56-plus game schedule and win as many games as possible. You never know what's going to happen with injuries, guys deciding that they're not going to play anymore, which we've seen each of the past 2 years. Very unfortunate, but it's happened. Grades haven't normally been an issue for this program. They do an unbelievable job there, but it happens at other places. Could happen at Tennessee. A guy who you thought was going to contribute can't handle business in the classroom. So knock on wood that doesn't happen or start happening at Tennessee. And so, with those things in mind, you want as many good players as possible. So you are crazy for saying that, but it's not like you're saying that this roster will have a chance to win a national championship changes because you don't have DJ Newman. And so I think both of those things can be true.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And to your point, one of Tony's talking points as he has made the media round since the season ended is he has referred back. He hasn't mentioned him by name, but he has talked about how there was a decision in last year's draft that he feels impacted this year's team, and that was the decision of Niagara transfer Eric Radicek, if you remember that name, committed to Tennessee, first baseman, lefty, if I remember correctly, left-handed power bat, playing first base. I mean, I know Fisher was awesome at first base. Fisher ended up being better than Radicek, but what would Tony's point is, what would the lineup have looked like if you were able to keep Fisher at third base, his natural position? Now, again, no offense to Fisher, I think he's a better first baseman than third baseman. So I think it ended up working out well for both parties. But theoretically, I mean, how nice would it have been? However, it would have worked out to have Radicek in the lineup along with Fisher. I mean, that could have been Tony's point is that could have been the difference in them getting to Omaha and them getting swept at Arkansas in a super regional. So who knows? Maybe I feel that way about DJ Newman now. And this time next year when we're having this conversation about somebody else, I look back and am saying that, hey, maybe DJ Newman was the difference in them doing this versus doing that. So I certainly agree with you there. My point is, I'm looking at it from the numbers perspective, and they are in a dire numbers crunch. And it's just one less awkward and unfortunate conversation that you have to have with a kid because he has decided to sign. And on that note, I did mention off the top that that there are some roster nuggets in terms of the numbers, I guess. Like the new rule is 34. Tony's going to have more than 34 scholarships to play with for next season because of the instantaneous nature of this rule and how it's gone into effect immediately. You are allowed to grandfather in roster spots essentially. And from my understanding, which I hope I'm saying this correctly because it's all very, very confusing in terms of all the new roster rules. But I believe you're able to grandfather in roster spots for as long as the school, so Tennessee, Danny White, the administration, as long as Danny White and the administration is willing to pay for that extra scholarship, then you can grandfather in, I think, as many as you would like. And so I know it's not going to be at 34. At minimum, they will have 37 next year. And then the year after that, it'll go back down to 34. And everybody, it's a hard 34 next season. When I say next season, I'm talking about 2027. But this upcoming season, there's a little wiggle room. And so, like, there's the left-handed pitcher from Minnesota, William Haas, I believe is his name. Had Tommy John talked about it on a recent pod, announced it like a month or so ago. You're able to essentially pay an additional scholarship to where, okay, now this freshman arm who's having Tommy John and can't pitch this year, that's not counting towards my 34. Now in 2027, that's going to count against the 34, unfortunately. But there's some wiggle room this time around because all the new rules are going in to where, if I understand it correctly, Tennessee can essentially decide to pay for X amount of scholarships to help the head coach out. And I do feel comfortable saying that they'll be at 37. There's been talk about them being at 39 next year. But from my math, if my math is correct, which is not a sure thing. I can't even say my name correctly on the final podcast of the 2025 season. But I believe they have 42 right now, and that is with a signee or two, it not being public that they're not going to come to Tennessee because of there's not enough room. So that's kind of where my head is at with the DJ Newman thing. There's one less high school kid that you have to say, no, we don't have room for you. You can't come in late July. And look, I mean, it also helps all those talented bats that we talked about earlier. I mean, it helps them get on the field quicker as well. Even if I like, obviously you want DJ Newman, but just from a pure numbers crunch and numbers perspective, it does help things out technically. And so I also wanted to throw that bit in there about the roster number. I know everybody's talking about the 34. I don't think Tennessee is. I know Tennessee is not actually going to be at 34 next year. At minimum, they're going to be at 37. There's also been talk about them being at 39, and it sounds like there's just a good old fashioned standoff of who is going to balk first. Is Tony Vitello going to balk first? With what the roster number is going to be at, or is the administration going to balk at what they're willing to commit? And I say that in a good way. Please, nobody take that the wrong way. Like we can sit here and have a separate podcast of it may have been an interesting route to reach the destination, but they have pretty much the administration and Danny White. They have pretty much given Tony whatever he wants in a lot of different ways over the course of his tenure, even if it was an interesting route to reach the destination. So it feels like there's maybe a bit of a standoff in a good way to what the final number is going to be. But I think simply put, they're at about 42 right now, and it's either going to be at 37 and 39, or 37 or 39. So you're looking at three that may not be able to make it to campus in terms of high school signees. But when I mentioned earlier, like there's a few other roster tidbits to be decided that I don't think is going to determine the outcome of the 2026 season. That's what I mean, is what number do they settle on, and which of the high school signees are going to maybe have to be told, like, hey, we don't have room here. Sounds like a lot of fun, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't have a whole ton to add to that other than I'm in the same boat of confusion. I don't understand. I haven't really spent a lot of time on it. Doesn't I don't need to know it. So once everybody figures it out and it's somebody can explain it, then I'll know too, I guess. I think it's good that there's the grandfathering. I don't know if that's the best word considering you're kind of
You're not grandfathering in anything.
I mean, it's hard to grandfather something that was not there before, you know what I mean? It's like they were operating on 11.7. Now they're going to be operating on 37, sounds like. So, yeah. I think overall it's getting a lot of flack because it's one less person than before. So 35 goes 34, and you can't kind of have the walk-ons and maybe guys that were even on scholarship but got hurt and they were on a partial and they don't have to count towards the roster spot for that year. And now it's just going to be more hard and fast. But let's not forget, it's a huge bump in scholarships, and full rides in baseball just weren't a thing several years ago. And now if you get an offer from a big time program like that, you don't have to worry about what percentage is it, how are you going to piece together your academics, and if you're in state with those type of scholarships, it's like you go play where you want to go play. So from a recruiting standpoint, I think it's awesome for these kids. Baseball deserved more scholarships. I mean, it's growing. These universities can afford it. They're making a ton of money. 11.7 was ridiculous. So that side of it's good. It's just a little adjustment period, and they will figure it out. So I wouldn't bet against Tony against anybody on any sort of standoff, whether it be good old fashioned Mexican standoff, whatever. I don't even know if I can say that. I don't even know what a Mexican standoff is. So maybe I'll just hush. But came to my head. So somebody said it before. I don't
And
think
I will emphasize that it's not an actual standoff like Tony's mad at Danny and Danny's mad at Tony. I know
I mean, he
th
probably
those are rumors that I get going all the time. It's not that. It's just they're trying to figure out the new rules and uh, the best way to navigate it. And at the end of the day, to your point about jumping from 11.7 to 34, I mean that's a whole new ballpark for the university as well, and the resources that they're having to now fork out. So they're just my point when I say a standoff. Like, yeah, maybe one is hoping that the other balks first, but it's not like I haven't heard it be like it's not they're mad at each other or anything like
they'll
that. And
figure it
again,
out.
yeah, they'll figure it out. And like I said, what has Tony not gotten that he has wanted at Tennessee? They have basically given him everything that he has wanted, especially the last couple of years. So please do not take what I say and think that like there's anything bad going on, because there's not. They're just simply trying to figure it out, as Will said. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is because I see fans on the message board and on social media like, oh, Tennessee's got to be at 34. There's 44 players committed. Like, how are they going to get from 44 to 34? And well, they're not actually going to be at 34 next year. It's going to be 37 or 39, it sounds like. And there's like, yes, some a signee or two maybe has announced that he won't be coming to Tennessee, but they're not at 44. They're actually at 42, if not a little bit lower. So that's why I wanted to bring it up, is because it feels like if for the fans, what they're following along with, it feels like there's such a gap of where Tennessee is and where they need to be. And it's not as big of a gap as it seems on the outside looking in on paper. So that's just the fun that has happened this offseason because of the new rules that have now come to college baseball with the roster limits. Mind me asking what percentage of scholarship you got?
Baseball,
Mm-hmm.
a fourth, 25.
Okay. I didn't know if you meant like literally 0.4
Oh no, the
or
minimum
4%.
the minimum was 25, but that was
I
all I
got you.
need. Your
Well, I
boy,
guess you had
your boy was
in-state.
smart. I was in state. I took care of business in the classroom.
You said was smart, so that mean you're not smart anymore?
Was smart. Was
Not
smart.
is smart?
Nah, use it or lose it. Uh,
But it's just crazy. And the reason I ask you that is because, I mean, I've seen like Evan Russell, I mean, basically a walk on and have to pay his entire way. And if I'm not mistaken, at one point he or a family member talked about how that they had student loans that they had to pay, and it's like, okay, Will Heflin was the Sunday starter on an Omaha team, and he was getting
Saturday.
25% scholarship, and Evan Russell was Evan Russell, Tennessee baseball legend, and he's out here having to pay off student loans after his playing days are over, and that's just two of a million stories. Pretty much every player that came through, quite frankly, unless you were going to Vanderbilt at the time, then you didn't have those stories. But it's to put a bow on that. I think you said it perfectly. Is like this is great for college baseball and all the kids that it's going to impact and all the families it's going to impact, that they're not going to have to worry about that.
Yeah, I mean the way they did it in the past was in-state was so huge because if you get the Hope or like my mom's a teacher, and so that took a cut right off of my tuition off the top, and then you get a certain ACT score, uh, and then you basically try to get as much baseball to fill the rest, and that's how kids were able to get to a full ride. And now it's just like, do they think you can contribute on the baseball team? Here's your scholarship. I mean, that's how other sports have operated. It just baseball wasn't that way before. There's a lot of guys who did some really big things at Tennessee. There's some guys that are in the big leagues under Tony Vitello's tenure that were not on baseball scholarship, and so it's very interesting.
And that's not Tony or Tennessee's fault. That's just the way the sport is.
Yeah, that's
Was
the way the sport. That's the way the sport was. You had 11.7. You had 35 guys. So
I mean, I imagine Crochet got nothing to come to Tennessee.
I don't know personally. He
Not
came
that
to
I'm
mind.
asking for
I
details.
was thinking he may have been on one. But he came so late. It's hard for me to imagine that they would have had anything left.
And he was like
But
Tennessee was like one of his only options too.
yeah, but I know Max Ferguson wasn't, and he was an unbelievable player at Tennessee and played very early. Played as a true freshman, as a walk on. And I'm putting up air quotes because walk on and on baseball, totally different meaning than walk on in football or basketball. It's just the nature of it. Really didn't matter if you were on scholarship or not. It was just a different environment. And
Who was
guys,
Max Ferguson's teammate in high school?
Austin Knight, who
What
was on
was Austin
who was
Knight's
on he
perfect
was on
game
a
ranking?
fat scholarship. He was on a fat scholarship. Yeah.
Yep.
All the out of state kids were usually on bigger ones, just because they had to be. And that's how most schools did it.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt. So it's fascinating to see how far the sport has come, and just while Tony's been in charge at Tennessee.
Now they're leaving, with real estate deals and six-figure incomes. It's crazy.
It is crazy to think how far the fan interest has come in the program to where we feel like we still need to record a podcast on the eve of football starting. That speaks to how far Tennessee baseball has come, and also all the new roster changes and scholarship stuff that we're discussing speaks to how much the sport has grown. And look, I mean, college baseball is never going to be more popular than college football, or probably not even college basketball. But like, why can't I can see a day and age where the College World Series is pretty close to March Madness.
Yeah, maybe, probably not, but it doesn't need to be. I mean, there's room for it. Baseball's, as long as it's growing and not dying. You know what I mean? Like there were some years, I'd say probably a decade ago, or maybe even more recently, where people really thought baseball was kind of going further down and not turning around. And I think Major League Baseball has done a good job of boosting attendance. They've made it harder to watch on TV, but they have gotten more behinds in seats at the ballparks. So they're doing something right. It's just it's not a game that's for everybody, and it doesn't always have to, it doesn't ever have to be the most popular, but college baseball, to keep it centered on that, has grown a ton over the past few years, and I don't see that slowing down. And whether it catches basketball is kind of irrelevant. I think there's room for both, and they can both grow.
Yeah,
And
for
I have
sure.
that, you know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. I'm sure there's people out there that really wish, like, baseball was the main thing, and that would be fine. But I love football so much. Like, I you know, as long as it's all getting televised for me to watch and everybody's interested, that I'm, talking to, and I can talk about it with my buddies, and I'm cool.
Yeah, and March Madness is probably a stretch. I apologize for speaking inaccurately, but
Yeah, it's big. March Madness is a big deal.
I think I was thinking more along the lines of, like, I think SEC baseball, and it may already be there, like, can catch up to SEC basketball in terms of, like, during the regular season interest. Like, I honestly do think it's already there. I think there are more SEC fan bases interested in baseball than there are basketball, or at minimum neck and neck,
Yeah.
same amount.
But
And again,
nationally, basketball still has a
for
huge
sure,
play.
no
Yeah.
doubt, because really it's the SEC carries a lot of the weight for college baseball interest, and that's not the same for college basketball. And so I did misspeak, but I was thinking more regionally in the SEC. And to your point about Major League Baseball, I think one of my underlying thoughts and my initial comment was, like, I think people forget or don't realize how many people do actually like baseball, even if they don't watch it all the time. Like, I am watching the Yankees game every single night. I typically, you know, make my day around when the Yankees play, schedule my day around when the Yankees play. I had the Yankees on while we were recording this. I had the Cubs and Brewers on the other TV. I love baseball. And so I am more on the diehard side, but just generally speaking, just a generic interest. I think people forget or don't realize how many people do actually like baseball. And I think a lot of those people who do like baseball on a casual level, I think have realized within the last decade or so how entertaining college baseball is, especially in the SEC and like in Omaha, the College World Series, the NCAA baseball tournament is very entertaining. Like I think that's why you see the numbers going up so drastically every year is because I think there are a lot of baseball fans in this country, and especially in certain parts like in the South, and there's people that are real passionate about it, and it's a very entertaining product. If you like baseball and enjoy watching baseball on television, which I imagine are the people listening to this podcast, especially at the end of July, like you find the NCAA tournament very interesting, very entertaining. Same with Hoover, even if it don't really mean anything. Same with the 10-week slate of SEC baseball during conference play in the regular season, or some of the early season matchups, even if it does overlap with basketball. I think your casual baseball fans are that's my final thought is I think the casual baseball fans in this country are starting to figure out how entertaining college baseball is, especially at its pinnacle.
And it keeps getting better and has gotten better in terms of quality of product on the field. And I think that plays a role, but also it's, they're doing a better job of getting it out there. More streams, more TV games, more publicity, more coverage, all that stuff. So they're doing the right things, and you're absolutely right. Well said.
William, it's been a fun and great 2025 season.
It has, brother Ben.
I bid you adieu.
Yeah, I'll go listen to your Boo News and Joey Aguilar. Joey football.
Joey
'Cause
football.
it is almost football time in Tennessee.
It is football time in Tennessee, sir. You're going to get us
Almost.
canceled. When is your official start to football season?
August 31st.
August 3rd, like the season opener?
I mean, yeah, I can't watch it till then,
How much fall coverage do you keep up with what's going on in fall camp and practice leading up to the season?
Admittedly, I could keep up better. I'll watch so the Hall of Fame game is this Thursday for NFL preseason. I'll watch some of that because I like to see all the young guys who have transitioned from college to pro, see some of those like future, those little fantasy football steals that you could get in late rounds. That could be something. But football is one of those games, like college baseball and then NFL and college football are the three that I could watch with no affiliation, no care about the game. Like I could just watch.
Which three?
NFL, college football, and college baseball. Anything else, like I got to have a reason to watch it. So, as soon as the first college game in week 0 is played, like last year it was Georgia Tech and Penn State in Ireland, like that was the start for me. And so,
Florida
I don't.
State.
It was Florida State. Wait, Florida State and Georgia Tech? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, not Penn State.
No, Georgia Tech won the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Florida State didn't beat anybody.
And that was the beginning of a.
It was Penn State and West Virginia week 1. That was that Saturday. Now it's coming together.
Right.
I apologize. It's getting late.
You're forgiven.
But
I've
yeah,
held you longer than I said I would.
I'll consume more content. I will say I consume a lot of like more national news. Like, I like to know what's going on with all the contenders. Your Ohio State, your Texas, your Clemson, your Penn State, Oregon, Georgia.
We know you like to keep up with your Florida Gators.
Those are your main teams this year to look out for. And don't keep up with Florida football at all or any Florida sport now.
Proud of you. I am
Right.
very, very proud of you.
I disavowed Sully.
But it won't be too much longer before we're back on here. Fall practice will be starting up in late September typically. So we'll
They
last year we
started
did
late last year. They
that was
started
also
later,
because of the
ended later
championship.
last year because of championship and construction.
Yes.
And so we'll find out what the schedule is going to be this year, and make sure that we pump out some updates.
Yeah. We did not do a good job about recording fall baseball podcasts last
Tough to schedule.
year. Tough to schedule,
These-
and it's also, trying to thread that needle of recognizing it's football season, but also recognizing that there's a desire for this baseball content as well. If people weren't clicking or listening, I would not spend my time on something that would not be worth it in the end. So we'll make sure we do a better job this fall, and certainly we'll have some interviews and have some fall content and audio version go along with my written content on the site at govols247.com. But do greatly appreciate you, Will. Season number 2 in the books with you here on the podcast. So greatly appreciate your contributions. I appreciate Wes and his contributions as well. Second full season. It's not 3.
3.
Is it really? It's been that. No, it's been 2. It's been 2.
And
Because
a half.
you started not a half, like 2 1/4. You're the postseason of 2023.
2 in my scholarship.
2 in your scholarship. That's exactly right. So already looking forward to our third full season together. It'll be a lot of fun once again. So enjoy your month and a half, 2 months of not having to deal with me.
No, I will be dealing with you because you're going to be making some putts here soon. So
I don't know if I'm going to be, but
we'll get you out
we'll
there.
see.
You'll
We'll
get good. You'll get out there.
Hey, I don't know that you can attest to it. Ryan Shumpert can attest to it. I actually am a good putter for I can't hit the ball straight off the tee to save my life. And my long irons are trash. I'm decent from 100 in with a wedge for somebody who plays as much as I do, which isn't a lot or as much as I would like. But my putting, like if let me putt for you, I promise we'll shoot under par every time.
I don't know that we would do that. I
Ask
think
Shumpert.
no, I'm not saying because of you. I'm saying because of me under par. That's a it
But
would take
you get us to the green, I get us in the hole. We're rocking and we're rolling.
Well, I'm not that bad of a putter, Ben. You think if it was just
I didn't say you're bad. I'm saying I'm better.
you're saying you're that good that
I'm
we'll
that
be under
confident in
par
putting.
if we just add your putting to the rest of my game. You got a lot of confidence in the rest of my game, which I appreciate. But
You're welcome. Here's what I do know. I know the two of us will be better than the combination of Chad Zerker and Pete Durkay.
Yeah.
And on that note, we will end our 2025 podcast season. Will, thank you very much, my friend.
Cheers, mate.
For the great Will Heflin, I'm Ben McKee. This has been another edition of the Vols Podcast on GoVols247.com.